April is right around the corner, and the mock drafts are plentiful on the internet. Post-free agency as team needs come into focus. A lot of mock drafts are being published, and people are predicting what might happen at the end of April in the 2023 NFL Draft. He's Paul Dottino. I am John Schmeelk. All right, Paulie, let's get into it. Let's start with Mike Tannenbaum. This is the GM mock draft over at ESPN. This is what he would do, not necessarily what he thinks is going to happen. And he's connecting Jalen Hyatt to the Giants at number 25. Speedy wide receiver out of Tennessee. That was a touchdown machine last year.
Yeah, he was. Operates out of that volunteer spread offense. So a lot of folks are going to say, well, is that more the system or is that more of him? We do know that he's under 180 pounds. He's a 6-footer. You mentioned speed, John. There is no question about his speed. And when you consider the Giants needing to take someone off the top, the question remains, will they have somebody in the room after the acquisitions they've already made in free agency, or do they have to go draft somebody? So I can understand why he might want to go that way.
And not a full route tree in that Tennessee spread system as well. Bucky Brooks over at NFL.com, he had his newest mock draft. He is the Giants filling a need with center John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. He was really good at the Senior Bowl in Mobile.
Schmitz is by far the best center in this draft. Smarts, power, frame, leverage, does everything you want him to do. Not the most athletic guy, though. And that will be the question that people will have to ask themselves. Is he worthy of a first-round pick? He clearly is the best center in the draft, but is he a more high second-rounder or is he a late first-rounder? That becomes the issue, and we do know the Giants right now appear to be kind of in a question mark at the center spot.
Let's shift over to our friends over at NFL.com. Eric Edholm, friend of the program. You'll find him on the Giants Huddle podcast hopefully next week. He is the Giants selecting wide receiver Zay Flowers out of Boston College. It was a down year for BC. The offense was a mess. He was their lone bright spot. Explosive wide receiver, fast, quick, but just 5'9".
We have talked about him several times during the course of these segments, John. He's a smallish receiver, tremendous separation, tremendous quicks, can get the yards after the catch. Again, what do you want in your wide receiver room? You want all of those similar kinds of guys, or do you want somebody who is a different variety?
All right, let's go to Chad Reuter over at NFL.com. 4-round mock. So let's kind of motor through these first 4-round selections he has for the New York Football Giants. Paul, let's go. Round 1, Trenton Simpson. We've talked about him before. Linebacker out of Clemson. Running a hit guy. If it's 10 years ago, he's probably more of a 4-3 will. Not sure how he fits in that 3-4 defense Wink Martindale runs.
Yeah, and that's exactly the question, John. We had a guest from Clemson on Big Blue Kickoff Live earlier in the week, and you know, he's not your typical sturdy, stout inside linebacker. That's just not what he is. And if you're going to ask him to play that in today's pro-style defenses, he might be a little bit out of place.
Second round, Joe Tippmann, a name we've heard in the first round even for the Giants. I think Dalen Jeremiah connected him to that in his mock draft last week.
How high does Tippmann go? I do think most people think behind Schmitz, he would be the second best center prospect in this draft. Again, the questions are going to become physically at 6'6". We know Nick Gates was 6'5". At 6'6", is Tippmann going to be able to deal with leverage issues when you're going up against guys who are 6'2", 6'3", 330 pounds right on the other side of the line of scrimmage as they get under his pads? That's something you're going to have to project.
Though Wisconsin, obviously a great history of developing offensive
doubt.
linemen. Round 3, they get the wide receiver poll. Jaden Reed, a wide receiver out of Michigan State. This is probably a new name for a lot of people that don't follow the draft closely. Had a really good Senior Bowl in Mobile. 5'11", 187 pounds. He's played inside and outside.
Yeah, a little bit bigger than Flowers, obviously, with the dimensions. But again, another guy with speed and route running ability. Now, Michigan State usually asks their receivers to block. They want them to be physical because that's what they play in that conference. So he might be a little bit more pro-ready and a little more adaptable physically to the NFL game.
I had a chance to talk to him at the Senior Bowl. You guys can go back, check out that Giants Huddle podcast. Good conversation with Jaden Reed. Finally, round 4, Paul, Jair Brown, who was supposed to go a lot higher than this. Then the combine hit, and he only ran a 4.65, but he is a ball hawk. 10 interceptions in his last 2 seasons at Penn State.
Yeah, notes I wrote on him is that he closes to the ball very well. He also is very good at reading plays, reading the quarterback, reading the wide receiver. Can play 3 different positions, all right? A little bit of slot, a little bit of that big jumbo linebacker in the sub-package, and can also play a little bit deep. But you're right, John. The speed issue at the combine definitely hurt him.
5'11", 203 pounds out of Penn State. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. We continue to track mock drafts on the Giants' social media platforms and, of course, all of our digital platforms as well.